Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Naomi would be the one to stumble upon the lost photograph of Junia Torn, time-worn image hidden between the pages of an abandoned book at the community shelter. She wasn't looking for it. She had been cataloging donations, folding used clothing, and sorting canned food when the picture slipped out and fell to the ground. Instinctively, she picked it up, expecting something forgettable. But what she saw made her pause. The photo was old, likely taken decades ago. A young man stood beside a woman, perhaps in her early 20s, with a childlike tilt to her smile. But it was the man who jolted Naomi's memory. His face wasn't unfamiliar. It stirred something Burieda half-recalled conversation, a flash of recognition. She stared at it for minutes, unable to place it immediately. Then, like a switch flipping, it clicked. The man was Kenneth. Not a younger lookalike. Not a coincidence. It was Kenneth, the same man currently making waves throughout the community for his unwavering legal crusade against the Richardson family. The same Kenneth who had once crossed paths with her in a tense town hall debate. The same Kenneth who moved with a quiet intensity that made people step back. He was in this photograph, long before any of this had begun. Naomi's heart began to race. The woman beside him, she looked familiar too. Weathered by time and hardship now, but unmistakable in the eyes. It was June. The quiet woman who stayed out back near the edge of the shelter property, barely speaking to anyone. The woman Naomi and others assumed was just another broken thread in the system. But this changed everything. June knew Kenneth. More than knew him. If Naomi's gut was right, this wasn't just some chance encounter captured on film. This was family. She didn't sleep that night. Her thoughts raced, circling the implications, wondering how deep this rabbit hole went. The next morning, she found June sitting alone beneath the rusted overhang of the shelter's rear annex. June had a small collection of string and bottle caps she was tying into knots, lost in the trance of repetition. Naomi approached cautiously. She didn't show the photo right away. She sat beside her, waited. Then, after a moment of silence, she placed the photograph in June's lap. June looked at it. Her fingers trembled slightly. Then she folded the photo and tucked it into her coat pocket like nothing had happened. "Who is he?" Naomi asked. June looked away. "I know who he is," Naomi continued. "It's Kenneth. You know him. You're in that photo together." June didn't answer. Naomi pressed further. "What is he to you? Why are you in this photo with him? Why hasn't he ever mentioned you?" June's eyes glistened, but her expression stayed firm. "Some stories aren't told because they're not ready to be heard," she whispered. Naomi didn't budge. "I need to know. If you care about him at all, you owe him the truth. Or at least, you owe someone the truth." After a long silence, June relented. She spoke softly, every word like a step through thorns. Kenneth was her son. She had given birth to him young, unwed, and had been forced out of her home. The system took over. He was raised in foster care, and despite her early attempts to find him, she was warned off by those who thought it better he not know where he came from. Years passed. She lost everything: jobs, stability, identity. Eventually, she stopped searching. But she never stopped watching. When Kenneth emerged as a public figure, challenging the Richardson family, June watched from the shadows. She made Naomi promise. "Please don't tell him. Not yet. I'm not strong enough to lose him again." Naomi promised. She meant it at the time. But truth, once known, does not sit still. Weeks later, during a routine inventory session at the shelter, Naomi found herself in conversation with Joey. She hadn't intended to say anything. But Joey, always calculating, always listening, picked up on her nervous tone and the unspoken words hanging between sentences. He pried. "You're hiding something, Naomi. Something about Kenneth, aren't you? I saw you staring at him at the hearing last week. And you looked like you wanted to say something." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's this woman. June. The one who keeps to herself in the back. I think. No, I know she's his mother. I saw a photo. She admitted it. Swore me to secrecy." Joey didn't say anything. He just smiled. Later that evening, Joey made a call. Martin, still behind bars, but closely connected through his network of loyal contacts, received the information within the hour. Joey didn't need to say much. Martin understood the implications instantly. Kenneth had a weakness. And now, they had a name. Within days, June disappeared. The staff at the shelter assumed she had wandered off. She did that sometimes. But Naomi knew better. Her heart sank when she checked her coat pocket and found the photo missing. Something was wrong. Joey vanished from the shelter around the same time. He didn't show up to any of his community service commitments. He didn't respond to messages. Naomi tried not to connect the dots, but the guilt clawed at her. She finally went to Kenneth. She told him everything. She told him about the photo, about June's confession, and about her slip-up with Joey. Kenneth didn't speak. He turned pale, then stormed out. Now the game had changed. Everything Kenneth had fought for could be undone if he lost June again. And Joey knew it. Joey had taken June not for revenge, but as leverage. Martin would be safe, so long as Kenneth was afraid. And Kenneth had never been more afraid in his life. The storm had only begun. Kenneth moved fast. He traced June's movements, retraced her last known steps at the shelter, and spoke with every staff member and volunteer. No one had seen her in days. The camera at the rear alley caught a blurry image, a van, its license plate partially obscured. Kenneth memorized every inch of that frame. He didn't tell police right away. This wasn't something he could risk leaking into official channels, not when he suspected Joey had connections inside. This had to stay quiet. Personal. He confronted Naomi again, not with anger, but with desperation. Did Joey say anything else? Did he give any hint where he might go, anyone he might contact? Naomi shook her head, guilt eating her from the inside out. I thought I was helping. I thought. Maybe he just needed the truth to come out. I didn't think he'd do this. You didn't think he'd use my mother as bait, Kenneth snapped, then softened. We don't have time. I need names. I need any place he ever talked about. Any old connections. Joey had been careful, but not perfect. Naomi remembered a place, an abandoned building on the edge of the warehouse district. Joey had once mentioned it in passing, back when he was angry at the world and drunk on his own self-importance. Kenneth locked it in. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He went alone. The building was as derelict as expected, rusted siding, broken windows, and a collapsed stairwell that led nowhere. He searched for hours, calling June's name in the dark. Nothing. But someone had been there. He found traces, cigarette ash, a thermos still warm, a blanket folded on top of a discarded mattress. Joey had kept her there. But they were gone now. Kenneth reached out to someone he hadn't spoken to in years, Samantha. She had long since distanced herself from the wreckage of her family, but she still had connections, still had instincts. When she picked up the phone and heard Kenneth's voice, she didn't hesitate. Joey has June, he said. Samantha went quiet. Then she said, give me 2 hours. She delivered. Through a friend of a friend who once worked with Joey on a side project connected to Vernon Dupree's old estate properties, she found a Lita private cottage once used as a security outpost during family retreats. Remote. Off-grid. Never officially registered under any name. Kenneth drove through the night. The cabin was surrounded by dense trees, and from the road, it looked long abandoned. But there was movement. He approached with caution, circling around back. Through a dusty window, he saw her. June. Alive. Her hands were bound, but she wasn't injured. And then Joey appeared. Kenneth didn't wait. He kicked the door in, shouting her name. Joey panicked, grabbed June, and held a blade to her neck. His voice cracked. Back off, Kenneth. You don't get to win again. You don't get to destroy everything. You think Martin's the only one worth protecting? I had something too. I had purpose. And you took that. Kenneth stepped forward. Calm, measured. She's not part of this. You want to hurt me, fine. But leave her out of it. You said you cared about what was right. Prove it now. Joey was trembling. Tears streamed down his face. I just wanted him safe. I wanted to give Martin a chance to survive. Then stop acting like him, Kenneth said quietly. Let her go. Joey hesitated. And then, almost as if a switch flipped inside him, he dropped the blade. June collapsed into Kenneth's arms, sobbing. Police arrived minutes later, tipped off anonymously. Joey didn't resist. He was arrested on charges of kidnapping, unlawful confinement, and endangerment. The press swarmed the case. Once again, the name Kenneth became front-page news. Naomi watched from the sidelines, shunned by some for her role, but defended by others who understood how easy it was to make one mistake that changed everything. She returned to the shelter, quieter, more careful, but determined to repair what she could. June remained shaken for weeks. Her health declined under the pressure of it all. Kenneth visited every day, helping her recover, sitting by her side and reading aloud from books she used to love. He never once asked why she kept the secret. He understood now. It had never been about shame. It was fear. A mother's instinct to protect, even from herself. When she was finally well enough, June agreed to meet Samantha. They sat in silence at first, two women once tangled in the edges of Kenneth's world. Then slowly they talked. About the past. About Martin. About Joey. About guilt and choices and how none of it made sense, but all of it still mattered. In court, Joey pled guilty. He gave a full statement, implicating no one else but himself. The judge, moved by his breakdown and full cooperation, sentenced him to 12 years with eligibility for parole in 5. The fallout from the incident reinforced everything Kenneth had spent years fighting against: the manipulation of the vulnerable, the exploitation of secrets, and how truth, even when it hurt, had to be spoken. He pushed forward reforms in the legal system for vulnerable witnesses, especially those tied to cases involving family abuse and power imbalance. June's story became a pivot point. People once unwilling to speak began to step out of the shadows. For Naomi, redemption wasn't a clean arc. It was slow, quiet. She stayed by June's side, helped her apply for housing, assisted with legal paperwork, and never asked for forgiveness. Instead, she earned it. June moved into a small cottage near the edge of town. Kenneth installed a ramp, fixed the plumbing, and came by every Sunday to cook her breakfast. They didn't talk much about the past anymore. Some things had already been said. Others, they understood in silence. The photograph that started it all now sat in a frame above June's small mantel. Beside it, a new one. Kenneth and June, side by side. Not everything was healed, but everything was known. And for the first time in years, that was enough. The seasons changed. Winter came early that year, blanketing the city in silence. The storm that had once raged around Kenneth finally began to soften. The headlines faded. The court cases settled. People moved on or tried to. But for Kenneth, the quiet was never truly quiet. He felt the weight of what had passed every time he walked into his mother's cottage. June, though stronger now, still carried her history in the slump of her shoulders, in the way she looked out the window for too long. Her health had improved, yes, but trauma didn't vanish with medicine. And trust, once fractured, didn't mend in days. Yet they were closer than they'd ever been. Their Sunday breakfasts became sacred. They didn't talk about Joey anymore, or Martin, or Vernon. Those names had already had too much power over their lives. Instead, they spoke about simple things: books, weather, what meals to cook next, the dog that wandered into June's garden and refused to leave. They named him Chance. Naomi remained part of their world, quieter now but more intentional. Her mistake had reshaped everything, but her actions after had defined her. June forgave her in private. Kenneth never said the words, but his invitation to her to stay for tea every week spoke louder. Samantha, too, visited when she could. Her work had taken her out of state, but she kept close to Kenneth and June through long phone calls and handwritten letters. The three of them had been strangers drawn together by fire, but what remained was something steadier: mutual respect, hard-won trust. Joey's name rarely surfaced, but when it did, it came with a complicated silence. Kenneth had read his letters apologies scrawled in clumsy ink, written from prison. June kept them in a box she never opened. "Forgiveness," she once said, "isn't always the same as forgetting." Kenneth understood. He never responded, but he never threw them away. The foundation Kenneth helped build took on a new shape. It expanded services to include support for families reuniting after long separation, especially those impacted by homelessness, addiction, and trauma. June told her story once, anonymously, to a group of volunteers. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. That night, as snow fell in heavy flakes outside the shelter, she told Kenneth she was proud of him. "You became a better man than I ever could have imagined," she said. Kenneth smiled. "You gave me the strength to be that man, even when I didn't know you were there." Time passed. The photo of young Kenneth and June remained above the mantel, but new pictures joined it. Him speaking at a justice reform conference, June in her garden with Chance, Naomi receiving a community award. A life rebuilt from fragments. On the one-year anniversary of June's rescue, they held a private gathering in the park. No press. No ceremony. Just those who knew the real story. They planted a tree together. Kenneth dug the hole. June placed the sapling. Naomi watered it. No speeches were made. None were needed. After everyone left, Kenneth remained. He sat on a bench nearby, watched the wind bend the new leaves. His mother sat beside him. "Think it'll survive winter?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the tree. "It will. It has roots now." And so did they. The past didn't disappear. It lived with them always. But so did hope. And in the quiet that came after the chaos, they found something they never thought they'd have again: peace.